gentlemen. Thank you for joining in, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen in the audience. So, we have been having a lot of conversations about connectivity, business growth, leveraging AI, how it is very important to tread on this path of we living in this connected world. So, to an extension of this, we are talking about, just to ask maybe how many of you all are connected to maybe more than two devices at the moment? Yeah, so this is just scratching the surface. We are connected to billions of devices. To give some data, there are over 30 billion devices that we are connected to at any given point of time. That's where the growth is, and it's only going to multiply by multiple x's. So today our conversation here is about we being in this connected world. So it's not only about the end user, but the IoT and AI leveraging that, and eventually, obviously, this all comes to optimizing your TCO. So, we were just discussing this earlier, and we said, if you want to just take over that line, you want to share about the marriage quickly, Anand?
Hello. So that line that we were discussing was AI and IoT. They've got a perfect marriage and conceived a child called as AIoT, that is artificial intelligence of things. So
So,
that's the
yeah, so we were discussing that, we are talking about not IoT and AI now, but AIoT, so artificial intelligence of things. And that's the new child we all are looking at. So, we have experts from the industry, from Vodafone, Reliance, and Puneet getting a very good perspective from the provider side as a service provider to the telco industry. So quickly, we have been introduced by Samriti about the topic. So just asking, keeping this as a beginning for the open conversation. So IoT and AI are changing the way we connect and operate. So how do you envision this connected future with billions of devices and everyone interacting with an AI-powered ecosystem? So if one of you could start, please.
Yeah, is it on? Are you able to hear me? So I think a lot of discussion has happened till now. When Arun talked about AI, Himanshu talked in very lot of details about the AI, the ML, the deep learning, the neural network which are coming up, which are giving human-like intelligence. I think both AI and I will not talk more about it because we all know about it. So both AI and IoT are very, very powerful technologies. And when they are combining together, as Anand said, they are transforming the industry. While they may be called IoT, AI,
AIoT.
AIoT. Geo is always good in coming up something new. So AIoT.
thank you.
So I think it is going to really transform the industries across. While we will see the impact across many industries, but 3, 4 industries I see a very big impact happening, both in the short term as well as in the long term. The first industry which I see is automotive. A fun fact which I will tell you about automotive is, and when I say automotive, it is about connected car. I'm talking about connected car. Facebook today has got 30 million lines of codes. Windows XP has got 60 million lines of codes. Connected car today has got more than 100 million lines of codes. So you see where connected car is going? It is going to be much more software intensive than any of the other software which we are using in our laptops or in our social media. So I see these connected cars, we are talking about Tesla, automated cars, autonomous cars, there are different levels. I'm not going to talk about it, but I think the level which everybody want to reach to is autonomous. जहाँ गाड़ी में बैठ गए और गाड़ी अपने आप A to B point पे ले गई. Now that is, if you see closely, it's a combination of both IoT and AI. In the new connected cars which are going to come when it become autonomous as we go through, there are going to be more than 200 sensors, 200 IoT sensors within the car. Those sensors are going to talk to each other. They are going to be radars. They are going to be, lidars. They are going to be thermal cameras, etc., ultrasonic sensors. All these sensors are going to talk via IoT to the AI system. The AI system may be at the edge. It may be at the device. It may be at the edge computing of a telecom operator, or it could be at the central server. It would be at multiple places. So you see, that is how the whole autonomous car is going to work. So that's one industry which I see getting impacted. The second industry which I see is Industry 4.0. If India has to become the manufacturing hub, today manufacturing only contributes to 15% of the overall GDP. If India has to do more exports, if India has to reach to 7 trillion economy, manufacturing has to give at least 25% of the overall GDP. So if we have to become a manufacturing hub, we need to adopt technologies like AI, cloud, IoT, which will help us to automate, create efficiencies, build better designs, reduce, downtimes, so that the product which we are building, both in quantity and quality, are much ahead of what our neighbors are doing currently. The third area I see is around medical, where we will see patient monitoring, personalized, monitoring for the patient, predictive maintenance is another one which I see. And the fourth area which I'm seeing is smart energy. I think Salil was talking about, and Cyber also talking about smart utility, 25 crore meters setting up across the country. They are just the building block. We are going to see from the smart meters, we are going to see the evolution to the smart grid, where the power would be flowing in a dynamic manner, like the way today internet is working. If one packet is going via one route, the other packet is going via other route, whichever is more efficient. So we will see smart grid happening, where we will have dynamic routing of the power. The static agreements which are today there between the generation companies and the distribution companies will no longer be there. So these are four impact areas which I see. Of course, there are certain concerns which needs to be looked at: privacy, security, cyber security, authentication of the data, data integrity are some of the things. Similarly, the logic of AI algorithm. We have seen certain incidences where AI algorithm did not speak the way it was supposed to be intended. There can be unintended consequences if the AI algorithm is not transparent, is not fair, it is not human-centric. I think these are some of the things which has to be sorted
Yeah,
out.
so
But
we
that is
will
how I
touch
look.
in detail as we are progressing in the conversation. So just to get a perspective now from you, Anand, how do you envision this place? And he rightly mentioned about Industry 4.0. So where is the automation and efficiency coming from?
See, honestly speaking, every domain has need of IoT and AI. So if you talk one domain versus another, that will be injustice to the domains. But what is more important is to understand how these domains will transform, because the key is how, not where. It will have an impact everywhere. So IoT is a method of collecting data. Understood. AI is utilizing that data. Now, there are 3 R's that need to be considered while collecting the data. One is the right data at the right time and with utmost reliability. So these 3 R's, R, that's where they won the Oscar as well. So if we keep that in mind, we will make sure that we have enough food for thought for the AI to work. Because if you don't have the appropriate food for an organism to live, it will die soon. Similarly, data is the new oil, and AI is the creature that's dwelling on it. So the first thing we need to do is make sure that we have the right data. How do we do that? Is by having an ecosystem. Again, Salil mentioned about the whole ecosystem of devices, the edge devices to the platforms. All of that has to be owned by someone, because in this industry, everyone has that Mera wala blue. So every industry has a bespoke requirement. Now, if we are able to get to the situation where these requirements are catered seamlessly in a scalable manner, that is where we get our first step right. Then obviously AI, and if you want, I can just touch base upon a couple of more industries to add to what Bhushan said. Healthcare. Yes, healthcare is one industry, but imagine in humans, you can go to a doctor, you can talk about your symptoms, you can get a medicine. But how about animals? How about plants? They can't talk. That's where IoT and AI is going to play a very, very crucial role. And we do have, we have a complete set of solutions in geocaching and geocattle, where we work extensively on cattle health and plant health, agriculture health. The second aspect that we can think of is more to do with autonomous vehicles, but it's more from a V2V communication, not precisely. I mean, yes, the OBD trackers and the monitoring devices, they are there, but they're things of past now. Future looking is all V2V kind of communication. And energy sustainability. That's somewhere something that AI is going to help us to get to those net zero ambitions. So maybe I can just take a pause and then.
Yeah, because in fact, when you mentioned about geospatial data, we had our event last week where the head of geospatial data was there, and he was talking about like how intensive the data accumulation is, and they are trying their utmost to reach out to the publics, and it's all, of course, because thanks to AI, IoT, that the data is being assimilated, and they have the sensors in the place, and which is going to be very utilitive for the public services also. So, Puneet, some thoughts? So I'll come back to you on that. Then we'll just quickly talk about maybe IoT, and then I'll just. So, Bhushan, if I could ask you, so in the context of IoT deployments, we spoke about how AI is playing a vital role and it's extracting actionable insights from vast amount of sensor data. So, how can we collaborate with IoT solution providers to integrate these AI-powered analytics into their offerings? If you can share something on that.
So as I mentioned that AIoT.
Yes.
It's a tongue twister. So AIoT. I see that both the technologies are very similar in one way, although they perform different functions. But both are, they work on the partnership. Like for example, telecom operator will set up a network, and then there will be partners who will be working and creating multiple use cases. Similarly, when we talk about AI, while OpenAI created a generative AI, the fun is coming, the magic is coming from the developers, the startup companies, who are building a lot of innovative use cases. You could build a video, you could build an image, whatever you say, you can build any content, whatever you want. So if you see, both the technologies are, a partnership-driven, technologies. I remember one dialogue, Vidya Balan ki jo picture hai, entertainment. I will say AIoT is partnership, and partnership. So they are going to enable use cases, as I mentioned about Industry 4.0. They are going to create use cases around automotive. We are working with a couple of partners, both with a joint go-to-market partner where, we are not only working on the end use case, but also how AI is going to enable IoT also. Now, just some time back, we talked about AI and IoT enabling industry use cases. But what I'm now saying is AI is also going to enable IoT. How? If we are going to have billions and billions of devices, and these devices are going to be remotely placed, they are going to be sending data. Is it humanly possible for anyone to troubleshoot? It is not possible. Today there are 25 crore meters which are getting installed. If one meter is not sending the data, is it humanly possible to find out that why this is not sending the data? It was sending data maybe 1 hour back, 2 hours back. And that is why AI, machine learning, kicks in. It will help IoT to find out that when this device was connected, was the connectivity up or down? What is the current status of the connectivity? It will, through the device management system, will, talk to the device, talk to see, try to find out, what is the status of the device, talk to the other application part. So all this thing is going to happen automatically by AI. AI, machine learning will remember that I have applied this logic to do the troubleshooting for this device maybe 10 days back. Can I apply the same logic? Because it is learning, the system is learning. So all these capabilities, be it the use case, be it the enablement of the IoT, as I mentioned, we are doing along with the partnerships and joint business model which we are creating along with the partners. Thank you.
So maybe just quickly coming to Puneet, we are talking about this growing networks, which is enabling this IoT connections and, billion of data exchanges happening, the data explosion happening. So, with your experience with the CSPs, what are the key areas where they are looking to reduce their TCO, in this kind of a 5G network and your approach to addressing these?
Thank you, Minu, for that question. I hope I'm audible. So, switching the topic a little bit to the core network. So, what we are seeing that every new technology is supposed to be actually bringing some top line benefits or bottom line benefits. And the core network or the service provider network side, the CTO side has always been one of the most complex areas to manage and to grow and to scale. So let's take an example of the way the core networks have been built in the last 20 years. So they have been like vertical silos coming from the different vendors and the equipment providers. And as the networks needed to go and get added with more capacity to scale further, we saw that there were operationalizing challenges and interoperability challenges, some proprietary protocols, and the way actually the industry thought that now it's important to cloudify. Once they were cloudified, they were again like virtual appliances, and things were actually kind of again siloed. So then 5 years ago, we saw that the industry is now going to have a horizontal cloud platform, which is able to have functions from all the different providers working together seamlessly, and whether it is packet core, whether it is VoLTE, or whether it is SD-WAN, SDN as a service, MPLS as a service, or Ethernet as a service, everything coming together. And in that, what currently, this was a revolution which happened in 2019, 2018 onwards. I'm talking about India, and globally it was a little bit much before. And as we have progressed something like 4 or 5 years ahead, now what we are seeing the telcos and what we are also consulting and helping the global tier ones is how to reduce further the cost of scaling those core networks and the transport networks further on. So one area is like normally we have the virtualized functions which are sitting over a common, you can say, horizontal cloud platform. So we are having the hypervisor which is needed to get virtualized, and then we have different functions onboarded into it. That was 4 or 5 years ago, and now if we have to scale the network while reducing the cost and improving the bottom line, we are seeing that more and more CSPs are going towards Kubernetes over bare metal directly. This is giving them double benefits of reducing the cost of the hypervisor and the guest OS which comes with every virtualized function. And the containers are also light, and every virtualized function is comprised of tens of different containers together, which are easy to compose, easy to maneuver, orchestrate. And in the previous panel, you would have heard Arun from AT&T touch upon the composability fabric of the entire end-to-end service chain. So that is one aspect, and if you see, it reduces the OpEx from the deployment, from the management, as well as the skill sets that are needed. So the people that are required to manage the earlier virtualized architecture compared to the cloud native architecture, containerized architecture as we move forward. And what is HP doing in this? Like for the virtualized architectures, we have been having our telco blueprints, and those validations are actually done with every leading platform vendor together, which is able to actually, make sure that it is able to hold the telco workloads. And that process is something which is a lengthy process. It takes around 6 months to a year, the validation. And those blueprints are then certified and hardened for bringing to the field. The second area is when you have these cloudified architectures converted into cloud native architectures, they are easy to compose and orchestrate, but then you have the need to have automated operations, or you can say AI enabled orchestration engines to be able to maneuver and manage all these workloads which are from all the different types of the network, whether it is packet core, VoLTE, IMS, or whether it is anything related to transport networks. So what exactly what we are doing is the FCAPS architecture, what we have been hearing in the past, you can say TMF forum days, since the past 2 decades, 3 decades. So that FCAPS was more relevant to physical appliances or physical structures which are actually coming from different vendors and their own silicon. But when we talk about the new cloud native architecture or virtualized architectures, so the fulfillment actually gets replaced by the term called as orchestration. And the management gets replaced. I mean, it's not replacing, but it's something like, assurance, which is a combination of the fault management and the performance management. So what we are having as new initiatives and innovations in the orchestration is intent, and that intent is a policy which is actually written by the orchestration engine automatically. What you need to tell the orchestration engine is what you want it to achieve or what you want the network to achieve, and it will decide how the network is supposed to achieve that. It's not something which you have to dedicate. For example, if I have to go from this place to Gurgaon, so there are 3 or 4 routes. So if I open GPS maps, I just say I need to go to Gurgaon. I don't really need to tell him that where exactly or how exactly I want to go. And he decides because he sees where the traffic is more and where the congestion is less, where the short time is actually needed for making me reach the destination. Similarly, that intent is something which is programmed by a programming language, something called as a DST, and that's able to build together different, you can say, models which are able to separate the services layer from the infrastructure layer and the network layer. Because whatever then happens in your network layer, for example, a device getting replaced by another one which is faulty, or a function or a cloud native engine which is or a container engine which is actually getting spun up or removed or scaled in and scaled out, it really doesn't affect the services layer. So the intent is very important. And then from there on, we are able to actually have the assurance also playing a very important part. And there is where the AI ML actually contributes a very important, you can say, role. And all the different traffic patterns which are there. So the 5G service packs which we have with our assurance engine, it actually studies all the patterns and the traffic behavior onto the network. And it is able to actually give that kind of a learning to itself, that if this particular thing is happening and this is an anomaly that is perhaps going to occur, so then this is something which will result in a fault. And so as it improves over time, it is able to actually predict those, it has a predictive behavior to stop the faults from happening, to stop the network from degrading, and to be able to actually get more visibility into the network faults, and it saves the degradation. And automatically, it has a closed loop control where it goes back and tells the orchestration engine that this is a particular interface or a device or a function which is going to go down. And then it is able to actually spin up a new container before the earlier one is actually going out. So you are able to actually reduce the network going degraded. So these are some of the things. And beyond that, we are also doing a lot of things on slicing. And network slicing is something which is actually more relevant to a 5G SA core. And that is something which is also adding to the top line, because all the providers are right now struggling with how to monetize 5G, whether it is private 5G, O-RAN, or So network slicing is a very important thing, and I can talk about that details. Let's give.
Yeah, so we had heard a little bit about network slicing earlier also. So, he rightly mentioned about the vast network and, how you need to have the ownership optimization and all. So, this can be very overwhelming, securing these vast networks and the kind of data that is being generated from the IoT devices here. So, what is your strategy there? Both of you are like hands on to this all the time. So, what's the strategy there to address this overwhelming data explosion and this securing this vast network?
So the strategy is simple: apply human intelligence. So yeah, we have a lot of data getting generated, but how to utilize that data is a key aspect, and that's where we need to think as programmers, as business developers, product owners. How do we really utilize the data? There are three core areas where you would have the data to be processed for building AI algorithms. One is obviously edge, and there are situations where you would need instant uh, decision making without waiting for the data to go to the cloud, having whatever latency it is, without worrying about the downtimes and so on. So, for example, if you walk into a store, the camera recognizes your face and gives you a personalized welcome message. You don't really have to go to the cloud
True.
there. Or you put a infrared camera into a washroom for an elderly patient just to detect a fall. You don't really have to send the data streams. You can't. You have to send the inference. These are some places where you put it on the edge itself. Then there is fog. So there is a combination of edge and servers where you collect data from multiple devices and process it on a local server. Only the necessary information goes to the cloud. Now, why this is required is because you really have to save on the A, bandwidth, B, storage capacity.
Absolutely.
Plus, the decision making has to be localized. For example, if you're talking about multiple sensors in an automotive plant, you can't really have a system which is capable of doing edge computing because the systems are dependent on multiple other sensors.
Absolutely.
And you can't even go to a level where you are dependent on the cloud. So we used to have SCADA. They've been working for a while now, but now we have to evolve this SCADA to a cloud SCADA where you still have the local intelligence there, plus the artificial intelligence on the cloud. And then the local intelligence can be used for instant or real-time decision making, and the cloud can be used for data which comes over years and years, months and months, see the patterns, how seasonal patterns, daily patterns, whatever the machine behavior is, and then correspondingly suggest improvements in the processes. That's one aspect of how to use the vast amount of data.
Data being generated, yes.
The second aspect about security, yes, usually people talk about security at hardware. They talk about connectivity, and they also talk about the platform or the database level security. But attackers are intelligent and they evolve. They evolve every day. And these mutating creatures, the only antidote to that is your AI algorithms. How you do that is figure out how the network patterns are behaving.
Preemptive pattern.
Yes. So if I am logging in from a particular IP address or a couple of IP addresses regularly, and at some specific moments I do that. Now, if the algorithms are able to detect the pattern of me logging into the system, and if someone else is trying to get into the system, the pattern is immediately detected. It's a violation. You put an additional check of authentication. Already you have two-factor authentication, maybe put another third factor.
True.
Try to check if it's a robot or
So
something
multiple
else.
MFAs are there, yes.
Correct. See the network congestion, see the patterns, and that's how the AI algorithms will eventually help you in protecting the data. You have to evolve. You can't be stagnant. The AI algorithms today can detect or parse the source code and find out malware in the source code by detecting the embedded firmware
True.
or the devices, how they function. So I think that would answer these two
Yeah. So
aspects.
Bhushan, quickly asking you to also just share your thoughts.
I think, as Anand said, that data will remain at multiple places. Okay. Like the example of, if I take an example of automotive, say V2X. Okay. Now, if it is vehicle to vehicle, that data cannot go to the server. That data has to be, between the device and the other, vehicle device. If it is V2 network, definitely that data has to go back to the network. So as he rightly said, the data will reside at multiple places and the data security is equally important at every place. One of the challenge which I see today in the IoT devices is security. While 1M2M standards are being defined, okay, but it is still not being adopted. It is still in a recommendation stage. DOT has recommended those standards, and even now, as IoT is happening in the country, we see that those security aspects are still not are being taken care. Although there are MTCT certifications, etc., and NTC which is coming up, National Trust Center, but they are still not answering those aspects of security of the devices. While some specification has been written by TEC, but again, as long as if they are not adopted, the data will remain
The challenge is still
unprotected.
there. True.
So I think this is one of the work which, along with the collaboration partners, TEC, DOT, government regulatory organizations, I think this is one of the thing which has to be
Looked
sorted
at,
out
yes.
as of now. But since this is a nascent industry, it is evolving. I'm sure these things will be handled as we go along. Thank you.
So, Puneet, quickly, maybe just getting you into the talk is like when talking about leveraging AI, so if we can talk about how operators can leverage AI and automation, that's your AI ops, to reduce the TCO and gain valuable insights for the network.
Yeah, so the way I explained earlier, so this is actually a combination of intent-driven orchestration along with AI and ML ops driven assurance. So that's in one sentence I am summing up.
Okay.
Because ultimately the customer experience is something which has to be actually improved, or the service has to be actually stopped from getting degraded. That's actually the thumb rule or the mantra that's required to be achieved. And why I said intent driven orchestration, because that's something which is very much important to study the network automatically and apply. The machine should apply its own mind how exactly the particular intent has to be achieved or the target has to be achieved. As an example, if I have to set up a an MPLS VPN from Delhi to Bombay, so I can go via, let's say, Pune, I can go via Ahmedabad. There are some two or three, but
Multiple
but,
routes,
but that's something which an engineer has to code. So there is a possibility to actually write a traffic engineering script on the core of the network, and that's something which he will be actually taking some time to actually write and prepare those documentation and the config templates. But if this task is given to the system, it is able to do that seamlessly and without really making sure that something is actually not fully utilized and making a proper load balance. So this all actually translates into OPEX savings. So if you are having more congested links and the links are going down, so you have downtime that actually is dollars. And if you're having a balance of different circuits utilized, that's again actually less money
True.
at the end of the day. And assurance is very important because the AI ML ops engine which is sitting behind, and especially like, for example, HP has a service director which is sitting on the top on the Mano layer. And then we have a resource orchestrator, which is our NFV director. So the service orchestrator is able to see all the different domain orchestrators and how exactly they are able to actually have the control and the visibility of their individual domains. And we are able to actually then get the closed loop information from the assurance. As they are studying the network, they are building patterns, and they are able to actually see where a particular fault is happening. And before that particular fault is actually happened, that actually gives a feedback back to the orchestration engine, and it is able to actually spin up a new container, and they are able to actually put that into the line and stop the service from getting. So all this, I would say, it translates into easily something like, so the first Kubernetes example which I gave, that's around 18 to 20% of the TCO benefit on the OPEX side. And if I would go further and let us say some of the CSPs are able to put IT ops, IT applications also on the same container engine, on the same bare metal and utilize the computes better, then they are able to actually save much more. And similarly on the automated operations, we are able to actually have the CSPs claim an achievement of something close to 25 to 30%. The trouble tickets are getting reduced. The engineers are able to spend more time onto the designing rather than solving problems, and rather than actually writing the complete scripts and getting into that cycle is wrong, and go to market reduces, so you are able to sell it better, you are able to get more customers. At the end of the day, the top line also improves.
Yes. So of course, rightly mentioned that we all are talking about how AI is being leveraged. So maybe just one last closing question for the members here is that how do we foster a collaborative environment that promotes innovation and facilitates the growth of a robust and an inclusive IoT ecosystem? So if you would like to comment on that.
So as I mentioned, collaboration,
Yes.
partnership. Very important. These are three very important things, between the telecom operators, between the academia, between the regulator, with the startup ecosystem. They all have to come together to make this thing happen. One of the big challenge we see today is interoperability and standardization. As I mentioned that, while there are, MTCTE and NTC standards which are there, but again, who is taking care of interoperability and standardization? Today, if you see most of the IoT applications which are working are silos in nature. Can a waste management application share data with a smart meter application or with a, camera application? The answer is no. All these applications are working on the silos. Similarly, the devices, again, standardization is not there. One device will work fine with one operator, maybe have problem when it goes into the roaming, into the other areas. So we see a lot of such challenges which are there. So one of the important things which has to happen again is one M2M standards has to be adopted, has to be made compulsory for the IoT service providers, so that from the device side, from the application side, standardization is done. Till that time is there, I think we are just talking. We would not be able to go far from here. I think this is one of the very important question which has to be answered if this has to go forward.
So very good fodder for thought for the people who are responsible for regulating this, please. So your closing thoughts, please, Anand.
Well, I think we are the only people standing between lunch and, so I'll just make it quick. Well, yes, collaboration is the key, and taking expert opinions, expertise from the industry and working together is the only way out. It's natural for any business, so it is true for AI. I mean, there is no rocket science in defining why collaboration is important.
Absolutely.
It is, and we should.
Great. Thank you. So we could just have one or two questions from the audience. We have our esteemed panelists here.
We'll take
So-
one question.
Yes. At the back, please. If you
That
can
side.
just-
Yeah.
Thank you, esteemed panelists, for the nice discussion. I just have one question around the things. So I heard you talking about reducing TCO with all the optimization with edge computing, intent-based operations. We heard the things about cloud native, moving to Kubernetes and everything. And also the biggest challenge about how do you still take care of this interoperability of different applications which are in siloed. The simple question to the esteemed panelists is, how actually do you think is one innovation area which is very critical to solve this IoT revolution because of the data explosion that happens? And I'm sorry for the longer question, because if we take the use case of V2X, right, vehicle to everything, we are talking about enormous amount of data which is going to come in, specifically from IoT space.
Absolutely.
You talk about the healthcare devices, the wearables which are going to come in. The data explosion is going to be much huge. So what is one innovation area you guys are still exploring that could help in reduction of TCO? And thank you for that.
So I'll take the first question. So your question is around the interoperability of the applications, you said? Okay, so basically all these applications, rather than coming from individual hardware-centric approach of the different manufacturers who make the applications. Earlier, they were not called applications. Around 5-6 years ago, they were called as different equipments. So rather than that, now they have been cloudified. So what I explained is that rather than a virtualized control plane where you are having virtualized platform where you are having all the different applications coming as virtualized VNFs, where they have their own guest OS and they have their own functions sitting together. We are now seeing that CSPs are moving towards a containerized Kubernetes platform directly over bare metal, where you have one operating system and that is actually partitioned into different containers, and you are able to actually load the applications onto it. And all the leading platform vendors, whether it is Red Hat, Wind River, Canonical, they're supporting it. And so that was the whole talk about. And it's an open platform. You can have any type of application sitting over it and utilizing the bare metal as long as it has capacity remaining. And as far as the interoperability is concerned, the application containers which are relevant to each other, they will interoperate because they are all on open interfaces. And that's how actually the 3GPP and the HC compliant architecture makes them approvable to go and get deployed. Okay, I hope that answers
I
the
think
question.
he's also looking for that one innovation suggestion that he's seeking. So.
So I think your question is around interoperability, standardization, what should be the innovation area, correct? Today, I'll give you an example. Today, why UPI is successful? UPI is successful because all this interoperability and standardization things were taken care. There was a platform which was created by NPCI, and then everybody connected in one manner to it, by which be it fintech companies, startups, or be it banks, or be it the the end consumer. They all connected in a certain standardized manner.
Absolutely.
Similar thing has to be created. So there are two things which need to be done. One is, of course, there has to be a standardized platform which needs to be created. And I know that government is seriously working on it. Mr. Upadhyay was here, I know CDOT and DOT are working on it, where they want to create one common platform which will standardize the way application and devices are connecting, irrespective of what type of application or devices. Okay. The second thing which I see is, if you see in US and Europe, there are standards like PTCRB and GCF. No, they are not GSMA standards. Okay, GSMA will typically define about the rollout of a cellular network, and they will come up with different releases. The ecosystem partner, and that is where the last question came in, collaboration and ecosystem. The ecosystem partners, be it a device manufacturer, chip manufacturer, SIM card manufacturer, the telecom operator, they all have to come together and create one common, while the standards are there, but in standards also there are different interpretations. Okay, so everybody has to come together and create those one single interpretation for that particular application or connectivity. It's a long exercise. It is not something which can happen down the line. It will happen over a period of time. But these are two ways by which these challenges would be solvable over a period of time.
So, just to add to that, yes, to, like the version we speak about in security, single version of truth. So, we need something similar on that platform also, which would be a single version of the truth for everybody. Yes, Anand, please.
So one of the major challenges today, while we transfer data, say you're transferring a vaccine and all you have to do is transfer GPS data and temperature data. To transfer 10 bytes of data, you're taking around maybe 200 bytes of overhead. That is one big challenge that causes issues in the network. Now, largely or conventionally, the networks have been dependent on IP, TCP, UDP. We are in the process of innovating a protocol, and we have already done that on a narrowband, which is called as NIDD, non-IP data delivery. This means the overheads, and in layman's language, what you do is simply send an SMS. Now, instead of a 160 character limit, we have a 3000 byte limit. And that's where we think the traffic on the network, and the NBID is also adopted in 5G, and obviously 6G is going to be adopted. That's one innovation where if I can combine Bhushan's idea of interoperability with the NIDD, non-IP data delivery, that I think would change the way data reaches to the cloud at with minimum congestion level. So that's something that we are looking at. We are working on it, And I think we already have water and gas meter deployments, because that also has impact on the battery life. The amount of radio you use for transferring data consumes battery. So it's having impact in multiple ways.
Absolutely.
And I think we are there on the cusp to launch it.
Since
Thank
we are talking interoperability and standardization, हमको भी वो protocol दे देना.
So thank you, gentlemen. I'm not going to like give a summary of something. I think it has been a very engaging and an insightful conversation with three experts who have really contributed to the discussion. They are available for more interactions as we break for lunch. So over to you, Samriti. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minu, and all the panelists.